Welcome to the White Lotus channel. Thanks for being here. Deck review. Teasdale MTG's Jeskai Affinity. Before we get into the deck, just wanted to say he's at Teasdale MTG, excellent guy. Really like the work that he does. He does a lot of work for the Pauper community. That being said, links will be in the description to the different things that he does. youtube.com/Teasdale at TeasdaleMTG, youtube.com/at TeasdaleMTG. He's also co-host of the Casting Commons podcast with the other co-host, Rhys. That channel is youtube.com/at Casting Commons podcast. The channel is split. They used to be on the Teasdale MTG channel, but now there are two separate channels. Both links will be in the description. Links to their Twitter account will also be in the description. Teasdale ran the Jeskai Affinity deck in a league, went 4-1. It's a great video. Highly recommend to watch it. He pilots the deck way better than I do. My channel has White Lotus punts at the end of it. He has no punts at the end of his. So if you want to see the deck operate more in length, you definitely want to check out that video. But we're going to cover it here today. So what do we have? I would say strategically, this is a synthesis of Boros Synth and Affinity as we know it. I'm just going to refer to it as Affinity, not Grixis Affinity. But it has merged Boros Synth and Affinity together to create a derivative of those decks. It's different in the sense that Boros Synth lacks a top end. It's got reach, it has flyers, it has incremental value, but lacks a top end. Affinity, it doesn't really have incremental value. Its card advantage comes from card velocity and a lot of it. So it's a lot of instant speed, draw 3, Reckoner's Bargain, Deadly Dispute off of Ichor Wellspring. So the card advantage game is played different. This adopts the Boros Synth incremental card advantage, a card off of Experimental Synthesizer or 2, Lembas, drawing cantripping there, using Core Skyfisher, Glint Hawk to return Lembas, Experimental Synth, the normal Boros Synth gameplay, and 2 copies of Bar Battlefist 2 that we borrowed from that particular deck. On the Affinity side, you've got 2 copies of Kenku, Mirror Enforcer, Frogmite, Thoughtcast. So it's a really interesting blend. The deck it can play a lot of different styles. It can be explosive, right? What I think is most important with this particular deck is getting 4 power on board as fast as possible. So if you can get Glint Hawk and Core Skyfisher getting damage, the game can close out very quickly. It's a couple of turns before you have Blast and Enforcer on the board. I try to prioritize getting 4 power on board as fast as possible. Doesn't always work out that way. That's okay. It's got a mid-game strategy too. I think that this deck is more of a mid-range deck. It's got elements of a lot of different things, but I like it as more of mid-range. It's got 17 creatures in the deck, but then you have Bar Battlefist that you count as 2, which is 19. That can be more if the game is extending because you're returning it with Core Skyfisher and Glint Hawk. It's got some explosive starts. You can go turn 3, turn 4, and you've got a bunch of Mirror Enforcers on the board. Typical Affinity style. And you can play a longer game with makeshift munitions as a one-of in the deck. So it's very interesting. Let's take a look at the curve. Curve is a little deceptive as always. This is stretching out to 7, but anyone familiar with Affinity knows that the 4 drops, 5 drops, 7 drops really should be moved down here into the 1 and 2 drop slots. Mirror Enforcer, Frogmite often played for free. Thoughtcast often played for 1. So all of these cards really are just kind of down here in the 0, 1, 2 drop slots. On occasion, you're going to be playing Mirror Enforcer for 3, which is still a 4/4 for 3 and great value. So the curve is a little deceptive. You got 19 lands in the mana base, all artifacts, no basics. The extensive tap lands due to the bridges We've got 10 in this one, but no basics, right? It is potentially possible to add one basic land for initiative type situations, get some value out of that, but it's all artifacts. From a game plan's perspective, the opening that I prefer, Teasdale might have a different opening that he prefers, but what I like to see, or what I'm trying to do, is turn 1 Ancient Den, going with Navigator's Compass that fixes your mana. So it's turn 1 untap land, gain 3 life. Turn 2 Silver Bluff Bridge, play Glint Hawk, return Navigator's Compass to get some value. Turn 3 Lembas, or if you have a second Glint Hawk, you're going Navigator's Compass, play the second Glint Hawk, return Navigator's Compass, and start building your value that way. The turn that I really like to play Experimental Synth, there's times I love the card in this deck. There's times it gets kind of frustrating if I'm not making my land drops. This is a turn 4 play, right? Mono red can go turn 2 or 3, typically 3 for me. But this deck is a turn 4. You do not want to flip an Enforcer off a Synth and not have the mana to pay for it, right? So if you have 4 artifact lands and you play a Synth, that's 3 untapped artifact lands. If you flip the Enforcer, you can cast it. In a pinch, you're going to have to cast it early and see what happens. But it's an interesting card in the deck that I like it. I just like it at the right time. Kenku, obviously, I don't like seeing early. It's kind of being Kenku locked, right? So if I'm not hitting my land drops, I've got Kenku on 3 and I tap out to play it. My artifact land is tapped. And if I'm not hitting in land drops after that, I've kind of locked the artifact creature, needing it to produce mana. So I like to see Kenku later in the game and not really in the opening hand. Opening hands, I want to see Compass, Glint Hawk, Core Skyfisher, Lembas, Frogmite, different things like that. Sideboard, an extra copy of Navigator's Compass for the red decks. Blue Elemental Blast, more anti-red matchups. Quark Clan Shaman for the go wide decks. 2 Dawnbringer Clerics. What can you say? It's just value all the time. Gain life, exile a card, destroy an enchantment, bring it in against Bogles, anything running Journey to Nowhere, anything running Makeshift Munitions. Cast into the Fire, Anti-Affinity, Anti-Fairies too. This card just creates a little bit of controversy. I see so much stuff about it where they either love it or hate it. I think it's got value. I like the inclusion. Dust to Dust, Anti-Affinity, Anti-Boros Synth, if you want to run that way. Very interesting build. I like the take on it. We're going to go ahead and run a match and see where we are. Match 1, Game 1, unknown opponent. Opening hand, 1 Great Furnace, can't keep that. Mulligan's not bad. We've got colors, spells, lands. Run it. I'm going to bury Galvanic Blast here. I don't know what I'm playing against, but I'm prioritizing the mana, which I think is incredibly important. Prioritizing the mana in this deck is unbelievably important. You cannot miss your land drops. You cannot miss your colors. All right, now I want my Gal Blast back. This is the way it works, right? When when you see Untapped Mountain, sometimes it's red, just assuming it's playing a mirror match or whatever. I've seen that way too often. Just bolt the step and come up. But here we go against Hot Dogs or Mono Red Prowess, however you want to call it. Trying to stabilize. I don't like the position that we're in, but it's okay. It is what it is, right? Can the deck recover? Can it hold its own? That's the whole point about a deck review. How does it do when things aren't working right? You're not freaking solitaring all the time. You're playing a game of Magic. The opponent doesn't want you to win, right? So we've got multiple creatures here. We're at 12 life. It's not good. Not feeling great. I did not prioritize Kenku there. We just got the Rebel token. Didn't think he was going to survive, but we could hope. The Lava Dart's devastating. It's pretty much game. Well, we'll see what we have. Yeah, it's game. Let's go on to game 2. We did all right though, right? Mana was straight. We have some options, but the opponent's deck is fast, and he was able to hit it. It's not even a nut draw, but they were able to hit it, go wide. We'll see what happens in the next couple of games. Game 2, mono red prowess. Let's go. Now, why are we going to keep this hand against a super fast deck? Why would we do that? If we can get mirroring forces on the battlefield quickly, we got a chance. And the opponent mulligan. So let's go. We're buying time right now, taking a look around. I'm prioritizing the lands. I'm prioritizing the mana pace. Some people are going to bury it. I'm going to keep it. Get some coffee. Play your spells before lands if you can. Next turn, going to get explosive, right? You can see the setup. Prioritize your mana base. You're not under pressure. They're getting some damage in. I don't like being in that kind of range. But this is nice, right? Synth to Enforcer. Triple Enforcer. Now look at this. This is turn 4, right? We got turn 4, 12 power. So you developed your mana base, scry a little bit, get some value. Boom, 12 power. With more to come, if necessary. We can crack the Lembas if necessary to get 3 life. Got that option. I was going to play Core Skyfisher, return 1 Lembas, and crack the second one. But he conceded. Good game. Let's go to the next one. Game 3. Score 1-1. Let's go. Why am I keeping his hands a little bit slow, right? But I don't think they run Gorilla Shaman. Pretty sure they don't. Maybe they do. But double Navigator's Compass, 2 lands, that's 4. Thoughtcast, which we can play off the Navigator's Compass. Try to hit a land. Mirror Enforcer. Opponent also mulligans to 4 here. So it's a keep for sure when that happens. Kind of hard to lose when red mulligans to 4 and you got 2 Navigator Compass in hand. Anything's possible, but I'm hiding white right now just in case he's doing something with the mana base. We can get back to red later. We talked about in the opener that a preferred sequence is to cast Navigator's Compass, white, Glint Hawk, return Compass. We're not under pressure right now. The opponent has two cards in hand. So even though that's a preferred setup, preferred is just that. Preferred is not required. So at this moment, we want to hit our land drops, cast a Thoughtcast, miss the lands, but again, we're not under pressure. Game is fine. Not only did he mulligan, he's just drawing lands. But we return the Compass. Replay it, 26. Just always prioritizing that mana base. Blocking here, don't really need to. It's not that important. I think pretty much the opponent's going to concede. Yep, it's nice. Playing Gal Blast on his turn. Just if he's got anything, he can go ahead and just get rid of his spells. That's a hard game for the opponent to recover from. Super nice guy though. Really good opponent. Enjoyed playing against him. But I hope you like the deck. I think it's not always important to just play a deck and say, oh look, it's the most awesome thing in the world and it beats everything. Every deck loses, right? This deck loses too. What's a vulnerability on this deck? Mana base. Why? Gorilla Shaman, post sideboard against red, white, green. They're going to attack the mana base. And it's happened numerous times. That's one of the drawbacks when you're playing artifact lands so you can play artifact creatures on the cheap. They're going to deny your resources, right? That's what they do. But with the games that were here, you can see some of the things that the deck can do. how it can be explosive. 12 power on turn 4. It can do a lot of things. It's a good deck. I hope you enjoy the deck. I hope you play it, fiddle with it, tinker with it. It's pretty solid as it is right now. Appreciate Teasdale with the stream and putting the deck together. Definitely tune in to Casting Commons podcast. It's really good. Gives you the state of the meta and the different things that are going on. But again, hope you enjoyed it. Stay safe. Be well.